on. Nothing good ever gets done.
So 3 years went by. I never heard from him. I didn't get a letter, a telegram, telephone call, nothing. And I had just done Bonnie and Clyde, which was my first film. And I acted in 3 more plays on Broadway. And I was taking off my makeup one afternoon, knock on the door. I opened the door, and there was Mel with a tall gentleman next to him.
I came in with Sidney Glazer and I said, "We got the money, here's the script, you're Leo Bloom." And he broke into tears and he wept. He said, "I don't believe it. Something good could actually happen in my life. I don't believe it."
He says, "You don't think I forgot, do you? This is the producer. We've got the producer here. I've got the money, and we're ready to go. But I want you to meet Zero first, because I can't just cast you without you seeing him." He said, "You're going to have to read for him." So I went to the office, and my heart was pounding, and I knocked on the office door. Mel opened it. I saw Zero Mostel in the background, and he says, "Gene, this is Z. Z, this is Gene Wilder." I was so nervous, and I put out my hand to shake hands with Zero Mostel, and he grabbed my hand, he pulled me to him, and he kissed me on the lips. We started laughing, and all my tension flew out the window. And I sat down at a table with him, and we read the big scene in the office when Leo Bloom first comes in. And I was good. I was good in the reading because I wasn't nervous anymore. And then they gave me the part.
So in order for this scheme to work, we'd have to find a surefire flop.
What scheme?
What scheme? Your scheme, you bloody little genius.
I meant no scheme.
The first day of rehearsal, I didn't want to break for lunch, so I said, "I'm going to go out and get chock full of nuts sandwiches." I went out, and I got 100 assorted chock full of nut sandwiches with tons of coffee. I slept and struggled. I finally got it in. When I got there, they changed the girl at the desk, and I said, "I got lunch, I got to go in." She said, "They're shooting a movie in there." I said, "But I got the lunch." "They're shooting a movie." I said, "I'm the director." She looked at me, with the lunch, with the coffee. She said, "You're the director?" I said, "Yes, I'm Mel Brooks, I'm directing this movie." She said, "Tell me another one." So I begged her. The time was, I said, "Please go in, ask for Mike Hertzberg. He's the assistant director. Ask for Jack Grossberg. Ask for any Berg. Get a Berg out here, please." So Mike comes out and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Help me with the sandwiches." He says, "He's the director." A kid like, "You're a director? Oh, I'm proud of you. Jewish boy. Oh, yeah. Please." Finally we get in. We eat our chock full of nut sandwiches and we get our first day's work done. I think we were 2 hours overtime. We normally shoot 10 hours. We shot 12 hours. And it was great. It was heaven.
I remember we shot in the studio on 26th Street, owned by the Browns, High and Mendy. They always had fresh flowers in all the offices in the studio, and these were the 2 of the cheapest guys who ever lived. So we went up to them one day, and I said, "Hi, how come you got where do you get all these fresh flowers? You don't spend any money." He says, "On the way in from Long Island, I always stop at the cemeteries, gather up all the flowers, and bring them into the office."
Mel thought that yellow was a funny color. He loved a lot of light, and he stipulated that yellow was funny, and that was one of the codicils I had to live by. And when I laid the set out, Mel was not really conversant in reading a plan, so what I did was, and I did this for all the other sets too, I did an overhead view showing what the set would look like with the furniture in it. And that was fun to do, and he could understand it right off the bat by looking at it at that time.
Bloom, I'm drowning. Other men sail through life. Bialystok has struck a reef.
First off, I had to put on the walls a whole bunch of flop shows that Bialystok had produced at some point in his life. I found somewhere in the theater district a place that had theater posters. The stuff that this man had would be worth a fortune today if it was out on the market. I mean, it would be worth thousands of dollars. But here were hundreds and hundreds of posters. He was willing to give me whatever I want, and we doctored them, and the basic material that we worked with were failed shows.
Darling.
Hold me. Touch me.
Not in the hole.
Estelle Winwood is a great actress. She lied about her age. I was in the casting call. We wanted a little old lady whose age was were roughly 75 or 80. And she said she was 80, and she was closer to 90. And if there was any ad-libbing, she did it. She poked Zero in unmentionable places and drove him crazy. Zero kept saying to me, "Get that crazy old lady out of here. She's driving me nuts," you know.
Mr. Bialystok. Mr. Bialystok. Oh, how do you do? Oh, my God. I mean...
That was my first scene, and I was nervous. I didn't need any help in how to be scared, because I was scared of Zero. And I remember when we got into the scene itself, and it's a long scene, it's about 27 pages, and I was thinking to myself, now remember, this is the man who grabbed you and kissed you on the lips in Sidney Glazer's office when you came to do the reading. Who knows, maybe he'll want to do something else right now. And so the hysterical part, you know, that came pretty easy. I don't know if I could do it today. In those days, I was ripe. Mel used to say you're a perfect victim. The wolves are around because they smell a sheep, and you're the sheep.
If the script is well written and the actors are really talented and intelligent, you have to do very little directing. You'll just get in the way. So I didn't have to tell them to do much. I was just a traffic cop. I mean, I did very little directing. With Gene, I did very soft and quiet lying and told him in a nice, simple, kind manner that he was a genius and that we were so fortunate to have him. And then I would go to Zero and I would scream, "You're the best thing in this. Without you, we're finished."
Man should be in a straitjacket.
Then I'd go back to Gene and say, "Zero was killing us. If it wasn't for your performance, we'd be fit." You know, I kept lying to both of them.
Mr. Bialystok, I cannot function under these conditions. You're making me extremely nervous.
What is that, a handkerchief?
Nothing, that's nothing.
At the time, I had a little dog, and I felt very close to her, and she was starting to fail in health. And we did a little rehearsal, and when he saw my blue blanket, I was thinking when he grabbed the blanket and said, "Give me that, let me see that thing," I was thinking that he was grabbing my little dog, and I started to get a little crazy. And Mel said, "Oh, okay, stop, let's film it, because the crew was laughing, because I was getting so upset about a little piece of blue blanket. But what they didn't know was I was getting upset because Zero was grabbing my dog, and who knew what he was going to do with my little dog.
Zero had been in a bus accident only 8 months before we were filming. And he was dragged 22 feet, and his leg was damaged. And every time there was wet weather, or if he'd be on it for a while, he was in pain. And he would often say, no, let's stop here.
I'm tired, I'm going to take a little nap. Wake me if there's a fire.
And I'd say, I have $941,000 to make this film. Suffer. Zero, get up and suffer. You know, and I'd push him and he'd suffer with that leg, you know, and I felt like, I don't know, like Rasputin or Diaghilev, you know, dance. I know your feet are bleeding, but dance, it's all for the ballet. I think, poor Zero. But anyway, it was my first movie, so I was heartless. I really was heartless. I wasn't such a nice person.
I assume you're making those cartoon noises to attract my attention. Am I correct in my assumption, you fish-faced enemy of the people?
Zero had in his contract that he didn't have to work past 5:30 ever because he had a bad leg. And one evening, we really needed him to work past 5:30, and Sidney Glazer went to speak to him, and he says, absolutely not. I won't do it. And Mel went to speak to him, and says, absolutely not. I won't do it. And he stormed off and went into his dressing room. So Sidney came over to me and he says, Mike, Zero likes you. Why don't you go in and take a shot at him? So I walk in, and he's sitting there like a potentate with a grin on his face, with almost like a swallowed a bird, you know. And I said, Zero, it's going to be tougher on your leg if we have to shoot tomorrow on the set and then turn around and do something else. It would really make sense to work another 20 minutes, finish the sequence, and you'll be on your way. He said, tell you what, let me yell at you for 5 minutes. I'm going to yell at you here in the dressing room, and then I'll come out. I said, okay. So all of a sudden he starts at